Hello everyone, very good afternoon. I'm Swaroop Gandevar, mentor at Mentorkart, and I welcome you all to another exciting session on Mentorkart Live. And today, the topic of our discussion is how to leverage on Indian gig economy. So recently, you must have came across a lot of commercials who are talking about the gigs and the gig economy, and there are a lot of things that are happening in not just India but rest of the world. So today, our mentor Shobik Dasgupta is going to take us through this journey of what basically gig economy is and how we can leverage it in the Indian context. So before we start discussing on this term and the overall influence this gig economy is having, let me first introduce our mentor for today, Mr. Shobik Dasgupta. So Shobik has around more than 14 years of industry experience working with various corporates like Hexaware, eClerks, and TCS. And he has consulted and trained employees from more than 30 MSMEs, including like that of JSW Group. He is an electrical engineer by qualification and mostly worked in HR transformation and process excellence. He is a Six Sigma Belt certified professional, auditor for ISO 9001 for QMS and 27001 for ISMS. Behavioral event interview trained and is doing some significant work in practicing behavioral insights. He is also mentor for change under Atal Innovation Mission. In last 3 years, he has worked with more than 20 companies, 2,000 plus students and professionals impacted, and 100 plus Sigma, Six Sigma professional guided as a mentor. He is also an avid traveler and have traveled more than 10 countries to understand people, their behavior and culture. And today he is with us. So welcome Shobek. Thanks a lot for joining us on Mentorkart Live. And to
Thank you,
start with,
Saru.
yeah, Shobek. To start with, let me first ask you, what is gig economy and how big is it in India?
So thank you, Saru, for the warm welcome and introduction. It always feels nice, when someone welcomes you such nicely. So warm greetings to you. I hope you and everyone is doing great. Warm greetings to all of you who are listening to this video podcast. And thank you, Mentorkart, for having me here. Right. So, gig economy as a term, let me take you back a little 12, 13 years back when I just came to Bombay. I did my engineering, I started working, and most of the people around me used to talk about, let's go for a gig. Let's go to Hard Rock Cafe. Indian Ocean is doing a gig over there. That was the first time I heard the word called gig. And I used to wonder what is a gig. So these musicians used to do events. There are a lot of freelancers, trainers used to do these events, and they used to call this as a gig. So gig economy has taken India by storm in last couple of years, because this term has become a buzzword now, and a lot of people in India in last couple of years are talking about the gig economy. The unstructured economy, there are employees working for companies who are on payrolls, and then there are freelancers, people who work on third party roles, people who are project based, assignment based, people who work for short term periods, or white collar or blue collar. So the entire economy that's around unstructured, or who are not employed with a certain organization, constitute the gig economy. And to be honest, this gig economy is growing very fast. It's gaining traction in India very fast. While it's very prevalent in US and European countries, people are working as gig workers there across industries. But yeah, so in short, if I have to explain, freelancers, people who work on consultant short time basis, who are not employed with any organizations, constitute the gig economy, to keep it simple, Swaroop.
So Shobek, when you said that this was probably 13 years back that when you came to know about this term. So probably in this journey of last 13 years, you must have got associated with it in some or the other way. Would like to know from you, what is your take
Right.
on this?
All right. So I first came across, as a freelancer or as a gig person, first event that I could recollect. I have done a lot of events over a period of time, professionally as an HR consultant, transformations. I have built a company around it now today, which is called SDG Center of Excellence, which stands for Statistics and Demographic Governance. We help people in the area of HR and analytics transformation. But when I started, 2010 2012 is the year when I did my first so-called gig. I don't like to call it as a gig per se, but yeah, then again, the industry calls it a name. But that was my first assignment that I took, and for one of the engineering colleges in Nagpur. I'll not be able to name it now, but I did that. And for 1 hour of session that I took, and I was paid 2,000 rupees for that hour, 1 hour. And that was good amount of money at that point in time, 2012, 1 hour, 2,000 rupees. That made me very excited about the entire scheme of things, because uh, the control of time and energy that where I want to put, I was not employed or bonded with certain organization. So that excited me. So that was my first gig that I did in 2012 as an HR, speaking to few college students, organized by one of the colleges. Since then, over a period of time, I have done multiple assignments as a consultant, as a trainer, as a process excellence coach. I've done a lot of gigs, and I have seen this industry very closely, especially for my domain. I'll be able to share my experiences, and that's the reason we are here, because whatever experience that I did over a period of last 13, 14 years as an employee and as a startup founder or a gig worker, I would like to share with you all, so that they can benefit and get some advantages out of it.
It's really amazing, Shobik, when you talk about your first-hand experience of gig, although you don't want to call it. Probably most of the people who are working in this freelancing domain won't be comfortable calling them. But yes, that is the reality throughout the world. When we talk about working on a freelance basis, they are called as gigs. So nothing wrong with it. But yes, I would like to know from you. COVID has impacted lives, millions of lives. So I would like to know from you that what was pre-COVID and what is post-COVID, and how can you take it? Like it's positive, negative, or it is a balancing act, or how things have shaped up, and what do you think about it?
So before I answer this question, let me put some more context into perspective for people to understand this industry a little better from my side. This industry, if you see, is divided into two parts, not technically, but if you see, there are white collar workers, people who are IT developers, designers, customer success professionals, consultant, HR transformation coaches, personal branding expert. And then there are blue collars or colored workers, people working for Swiggy, Ola, Uber, platform driven economy, and there are so many of those. And that economy, so there are two spectrums to it, if you have to see it in that ways. If you see it holistically, you will understand, and both the industry has its own set of challenges, pros and cons, which probably we may or may not discuss at this point in time. But since pre and post COVID scenarios, if you have to ask, a lot of people have suffered because of the COVID situation around us. But the post COVID scenario, it's increasing very fast. So now I'll break your question into two parts. For pre COVID, the blue collar workers, they impacted a lot, because most of the delivery was closed, the Ola Uber business was closed, and even today people are skeptical using these kind of things, while delivery business has increased a lot. But again, Ola Uber, their business is also lost, and a lot of other startups and companies which are there. So yeah, they have lost little business. But if you believe experts and the market research which is available, it's going to increase, and it's going to increase to almost $455 billion by 2024. So in next 3 to 4 years, that's going to be a massive rise for overall as an industry. But if you see professionals who are white collars, post COVID, it has increased drastically. People who are developers, people who are designers, people who are customer success professional, HR coaches and transformations, who work in these kind of gigs, they are sitting at the comfort of their home with in front of the computer, like we are sitting and chatting to each other. A lot of work is being done, and it's beneficial for companies and employees to get the work done in these difficult times without exposing high risk. So high skill set people are benefiting because of the COVID thing. But the workers who are at a low skill sets, which are more person dependent, wherein you have to be physically present to do the work, go around, travel, interact with people, took a hit now at this point. Yeah. So to sum it up, the overall industry looks very lucrative and growing very fast. but it took hit for some of them. Many people lost jobs.
Yeah, actually, it has been a roller coaster ride for most of the people. As far as various economies are concerned, various industries are concerned, they took a hit. It was a huge loss for them. But like you have stated, it is we should divide it into two parts, because if you want to understand the impact by any scenario, then we have to understand it in the pre and post part. Okay, Shobik,
And that is
if
the,
I
just to add, sorry, Saurabh, just to
yeah,
add to this, and that is the reason the government of India is doing a lot of initiatives to support these gig workers, especially the blue collar ones. The new labor code has a lot of provisions which are there for social security and other things, to provide them the benefits which are otherwise not available to these guys. There are a lot of challenges while we see the industry is growing and the market size is very big, but it's very unstructured in terms of laws. The labor laws that were formed way back in 1950s. So those labor laws were very much employee centric and not for the gigs. But now with the revisions and the new code that is there, there are some provisions, and it will benefit, and the government will take steps with Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India concept, all those things. It will benefit if people know how to take best out of what is available for
right.
us as a country.
Absolutely. And I think we are not wrong in saying this, that in time to come, it is the skills that is going to get you job. Gone are those days then when we have just a piece of paper and we are saying that it is some sort of degree from XYZ institute and you will get the
Correct.
job. No, sorry. If you're talking about the gig economy, it is all about skills. So would like to know from your experience of more than 13 years that you've been working with so many corporates, you've been training thousands of students, and you have been mentoring under the Atal Incubation Center also. That what do you think? What is the perception of today's youth? Are they ready to get upskilled?
Correct. So it's a very interesting question, perception of youth and perception of people who are leading these youths. Again, I would like to see it in context, because I come from a behavioral science background, and uh, I see everything from a lens of a context. If you see the youth, they are very much inclined towards learning, but again, learning is driven by the societal things that are happening around us. So most people who are people, if you see, they talk about technology and it, AI, ML, IoT. With industry 4.0, these technologies are growing very fast, but not many people are competent enough to adapt to these skill sets, while they have their inner core competencies, maybe something different. People from a management background, people from commerce background, people from arts. So it's important. So students, they are very keen if they understand. So what I have realized personally after interacting with so many people over a period of last 5 years, people from tier 1, tier 2 cities, tier 1 cities especially, they are very much aware of the things, their core competencies. But especially people from tier 2 cities, they need handholding and mentoring from senior people who would be guiding them in terms of identifying their core competencies, their strengths, and how can they drive their own persona to either get a job or to work as a freelancer, because there are limitations in terms of jobs available for in the government and private sector both. But yes, there are opportunities available if you want to leverage.
And
And
you have been wearing a lot of hats. One amongst them has been hat of being an HR professional. So,
Mhm,
like, this question might have come to you on numerous occasions. Sir,
mhm.
I've done my graduation, or sir, I've done my post graduation, and looking ahead, what do you think, sir? Should I do a full time job, or should I enter the gig economy?
Right. So, very interesting question, Saurabh. Thank you for asking this question. And I have came across this question multiple times. And as a student, when I was a student, I was a very bad student, to be honest. In terms of marks. And I graduated in 4 years, and I realized that I'm not good electrical engineer. While I was more inclined towards people, process, system. And I was fortunate that I was hired in a campus interview by a company called Hexaware. Now, where I'm coming from is, as a student, not we don't know what lies as a future for us. Uh, 8 out of 10 students don't know that. if I have to put numbers from my experience, only two people know exactly what I want, where I want. Getting a job, everybody knows that I have to get a job, and I come from a Bengali middle class family. For one thing that every our parents teaches us is beta acha school jao, acha padhai karo, and get a good job. So that is something that everybody know. But what is a good job? Which area to work? So most people don't know this. And if you ask me this question, what should I suggest as a professional to young students, is to first identify your core competencies and then take a decisions. So there are people who easily get a job and take that route, or there are people who struggle and take the gig route because they don't have anything in place. So rather than depending on chance, we should depend on choice. And that choice, if I am a student in third year, I will start introspecting and questioning that where I am heading. Do I want to take a risk? Do I have the risk appetite? So for a person like me, when I was a student, I took a loan and got educated. So probably getting the job was the most wisest thing. So if there is a student who has some financial burdens, commitments, and coming from a background where you need to support your parents, I think a safer option would be a job. But if there is a student who can take some risk, realize that I have that innate potential within me, and I can try some good things, that I'll 1 or 2 years. And I know few people. I have recently mentored a couple of people who were doing freelancers initially, and they were talking to me, how can I get a good job straight out of college, and they were doing very good. And we all hear stories from IITs and IIMs who are starting up. So those are the outliers for me, because the Indian context, I mean, those people are only 5 to 7% of the Indian student force, but the remaining 80-90% is the audience that really needs interventions to help on their core competencies, Swaroop, if you ask me. So
Very
yeah,
well
again, it's a
stated.
personal choice. I will not say do this or do that,
Right.
but
It's up to them. They
yeah,
need to understand the pros and cons of every decision. Like you said, it's not about chance or a choice. It's purely about what you plan, how you plan, and then how you execute it. Because just planning doesn't take you anywhere. You have to implement at the end of the day.
correct.
Shobik, when we say that somebody should go for freelancing, there is a rush of blood in person
Hmm,
next to you. They're extremely happy to know this. Should I start my own? Wow, should I be a freelancer? Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. And then next question comes: how to get projects? And that is the big question. I want to be a
correct.
freelancer. Wonderful. I have certain skill set. Awesome. But what about projects? So would like to know very brief manner about
Mhm.
if somebody is planning to get into this gig concept, then how and what they should focus on in order to get their first few projects, then to fine tune it.
Correct, correct. So it's a very interesting question pertaining to the subject, how to leverage on the gig economy, directly relevant to the title that we are talking about. And it's very difficult today because, getting your first gig is something that people are very excited towards it. And let me, take you a little back before I give you brief solutions about how someone can get it. But when I started first, uh, it was very difficult to land your first gig. So what I did, what worked for me, probably may work for some of them but may not work. You have to tweak and again. So these are not success mantras, to be honest, but again, something that worked for me. So again, what best you have to do is, what I did for me is to identify my core competencies, what I am good at, what are the key skill sets that I am very good at. Then identify the market, which is very important because India as a country is huge.
Sorry to interrupt you, Shobik. The first thing that you started with, identification of core competencies. I would like, even to share your thoughts on that perspective, because people talk about core competencies, people talk about identifying your niche, but what and how? That is again a question. So once you give a brief answer to this, I would like to know from you how to identify the core competencies also. Yeah,
I'll
please.
break it right away. Identifying your core competencies. So when I was in college, I realized that I'm not a good electrical engineer, but what I'm good at building relationships. I'm good at meeting people. I'm good at talking to people. Even after working, I realized that I'm a good networker. and I can network with people. I can have many friends around me, and people like me as a person. That's my strength. So SWOT analysis is something that I did, and I did not know what SWOT was back then. Again, from that background, but later on, as an HR professional, you tend to learn all these key things. But identifying your strengths and weaknesses, and with experiences, I did a lot of incidences that I realized that I'm good at this. So I was good at talking to people. I was a lot of events that I used to do. I was good at sports. So I realized that people is something that I'm very good at with, and I should build a career which is related to people. So that was the first filter that I used. And then in people, what is something that I can do? Then I realized that I can talk, I can interact with people. HR is something which is exciting. I understand. I dropped biology in 12th standard and I took sociology. So human beings behavior, something like which is related to HR excited me. It be it recruitment, learning and development, culture, diversity, all this subject excited me when I used to read. So reading helped me to do those identification of core competencies within myself. And there are various other ways to break down your own self in your strengths and weakness. But yeah, identifying your core competencies. Then while I was working, I used to continuously assess my own self. So I did Six Sigma, I did process excellence training like ISO 9001, quality management system, internal auditor training for 27,000. So process is something that I realized, I am good at documentation. So how can I marry both of them? So later I got an opportunity to marry HR and process, which was my role in TCS, process transformation for HR. And that's how my journey for HR transformation started over there. So first point is to identify your core competencies. There are various resources available in the industry as well, but that's what I did. Simple SWOT analysis. Second is to identify the market that you want to target. There are large companies who have very structured approach. If you ask, so when I zeroed down to HR consulting, because there's a problem that I realized that tier 2 cities, tier 3 students don't get experience professionals like what tier 1 companies get. And in TCS, we are hiring a lot of people. We realized that people coming from tier 2 cities, they have lack of information and knowledge services. So we zeroed down to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, the MSME market, which is 80%. So market size is also very big. And so also as a freelancer, it's not that you have, if you're a freelancer, if you give one, even if you're a single person, you have to do this kind of groundwork, Swaroop. So I did that. I narrowed down to the industry that I want to target. Even in the MSME, we cannot target the large companies, the medium and small companies, because I have to start somewhere, get a first gig, and then rise the ladder of this industry. So yeah, the second point was to identify the industry, and the third was to funnel approach. Sales always work in the funnel approach. You have the top of the funnel, you generate a lot of leads that can be generated using different today there is social media presence with all digital platforms. But when I started in 2015, while digital was growing, but I was not very much techno savvy in terms of digital marketing concepts like email marketing campaigns and all those things. So what we did was simple word of mouth networking. I met people, walked to companies, knocked the door of different HR, sent emails. Those were the things that we did. So we created a funnel. Then we qualified the lead, we prospected, and we converted, and that's how I landed. So these are the three steps anyone can do. But yes, you have to knock a lot of doors for your first gig. But once you start performing at your first project, I think with word of mouth, because this economy works with a lot of word of mouth concept. If people believe you, they will refer you. And digital helps to bring the brand and image, but word of mouth works a lot. So these are the three steps, if which work for me, may work for
It's
some of you.
absolutely amazing, Shobik, when you're talking about your journey and when you are stating all the facts. And I'm extremely happy to know you are very humble and very transparent enough to share everything. You straight away said that I was not a good student. Now it's a big fact, but unless and until you are a good person, you cannot do so many things. You have been learning, continuously learning, doing so many things. I believe being an HR professional, learning all the aspects of even Six Sigma, That is a huge task. You are bound to give a lot of time and energy behind that. And of course, if that is something that you have identified and now those are your core competencies, so that's an amazing, that's an achievement, that's a feat indeed. So congratulations for all these things that you have been doing rapidly. And it's indeed a motivation for a lot of people who are listening to us today, that it's not that once I study something, that's the end of the story. That is the
True.
beginning of the story. Rather, once I learn
Absolutely.
something, I have to keep on updating it so that I can become a master of it. Because in today's time, I believe people are looking at masters. They are not looking at people who are jack of all trades. Because this is
Correct.
not an era. Because if we are talking about gigs, we are talking about gig economy. Freelancing is for specialists. It's always for
Correct.
specialists. Because
Absolutely.
if I want to do certain HR transformation in my organization, I'll look for Shobik because he is HR transformation expert. Tomorrow, if you're looking for some digital marketing expert, you can refer me because he knows digital marketing. So some
Absolutely.
specialization has to be highlighted, and people should understand this. In this contest, I want to ask you one question: what are the three best practices that you would suggest to our fellow Indians?
Correct. So, three best practices, if you have to ask me, then the number one would be networking. Networking is something which is very important. Until and unless you network, and being in HR, you have to network and build strong relationships with people around us, which will help you to build a strong personal brand also. Networking will help you to build relationships. It will help you to, so networking can be, today there are various platforms. I don't know if people have heard about, some of you might know about BNI. There are Saturday clubs, there are meetups. So a meetup is something that I really appreciate, because I used to organize meetups, and I do meet a lot of people. Coffee table meets, just like that, meeting someone who is professional, like-minded, whom you think may be beneficial, because a lot of my work have come from references. So some of my senior mentors and leaders, I would like to thank them also on this platform, whom I met for a coffee, and they referred me to someone, and I got my project. And some of them are large projects, which I got in terms of revenue and all. So once we are ready with our core areas of work, and we have narrowed down, so networking helps. That's the first thing. Second thing that I want to tell you is, create a lot of work samples, in terms of case studies, in terms of videos, in terms of content. It will help. So if I'm a freelancer, how will someone know that I have that experience? One is by interviewing me, or meeting. We cannot call it as an interview, because interview is for an employee. I mean, while even for us, when we started, people interview. So but after 4 or 5 years, we call it as a professional meeting, wherein they assess your knowledge, and we also assess the study, to know how, what is the scope of the work, what is the area, who are the people involved, those kind of things. But a lot of work samples helps to, so like what resume works for a job application, work samples work for gig economy as well. So while today a lot of people are in job scenario also asking for work samples, in the West, in India also it's going to start very soon. It's better that we create a lot of work samples for us. And third and foremost is to create a very good social media presence, which is very much important today, to create again visibility in the market. So using LinkedIn, using Instagram, using whatever the tools are available, Quora and medium.com, write a lot of content, because content piece better than me. I'm just learning the content bit from the rest of the world. But yes, that's very interesting for me to learn. While I have a lot of content which is there with me in terms of HR and process excellence, but how to market that content and to create brand visibility and brand positioning. So we talk about brand visibility and positioning as a company. You coming from a marketing background would realize that people spend a lot of time and energy on brand as a word. But individuals, gig workers, freelancers also need to have that brand positioning. What is the industry that I am available for, and where do I rank myself with respect to the rest of the freelancers or people working in that industry? So these are the three things, if I have to summarize
It's
it.
really amazing, Shobik. It's not just about best practices, but probably today you have given a roadmap. I would call it as a success blueprint, because if people follow these three things religiously, probably they'll understand where they are lagging. And if once you understand where you are lagging, then you have room for improvement. people don't understand where they are failing, and then they talk about success. So I think that is a mismatch. If we don't understand where I'm failing and then I just talk about why I'm not successful, then we are somewhere down the line contradicting our own thought process. Okay.
Correct.
So my next question, I'll take it as a last question for our today's discussion. Throughout this journey of 13 years, Shobit, you might have come across a lot of mentors in your life. So I'd like to know from you, what is the role of mentor in your life so far?
So something, mentor is something that you cannot become successful without having a mentor in your life, to be honest. And you need more than one mentor, to be honest. That's what I have realized, because there will be one person who would be guiding holistically, but there will be subject matter expert who will play a role of a mentor. There will be professional mentor, personal mentor. So for me personally, the role of a mentor is very important. I'll share a couple of examples as well. This I realized when I was in Hexaware. They had someone who's very senior, and Wish is what we used to call him, and he made us realize that role of mentorship is very important. And he, being such a senior professional, told us that you should always look forward to mentorship and keep learning, because until unless you keep learning and under someone's guidance, you will not grow as an individual at whatever role, whatever capacity you are playing. So he was the first person who told me that. But ever since then, there were a lot of people who played roles of a mentor. I can name few of them, Kedar Tokekar and Manish, who were my first managers at Hexaware. They are still guiding me at whatever capacity they can, and they are someone who are just helping me whenever I am in trouble. Because the journey is not easy. It's quite difficult as a freelancer, and then you start up, and then you build a team around it, and you build that team. You work with large corporates with a lot of people. So in that journey, you will need a lot of mentors to build resilience within us, to build strength for us, and also show guide map. So these are the two people who guided me. Professor Dilip Soman from Toronto University, Rotman, who is super busy, is the super his chair of research in Rotman, Canada University. So I consider himself as a mentor. I don't know if he but he has helped me immensely in whatever way he did. He came down to Pune last year. He came for a meetup. So I keep on learning from mentors all across, and there are many other people who are mentoring me at different stage of life, and I'm always grateful to that. So I always believe that young students, professionals, and even people like us with 13, 15 years of experience, we still have 15, 20 years more of work left with us. So mentorship is something which is very important for anyone and everyone. Without that point A to point B journey will be very difficult.
True, true, very true. So, dear all, it was really amazing having Shobik, mentor Shobik, with us on this Mentorkart live session, and I hope you found him really very interesting. And if you want to know more about him, you want to have certain question you want to ask to him, so you are always welcome on Mentorkart. So you can have all our mentors. You can get to know about a lot of things from their experience, and this is the best part of Mentorkart, that we have mentors from all walks of life, and they have different stories, different success stories. They have been mentoring so many people, so even you can get benefited. So thanks a lot, Shovik, for joining us today. Thanks a lot, everyone, for being a part of this lovely discussion. It was one of its kind, amazing experience. So thanks for being there. We'll definitely meet on next Saturday with our next mentor. Till then, bye bye, take care.
Thank you, Swaroop and Mentorkart.